The young strategist Tagame arrives on Fushur Island, seeking the head of the Yashiri family, who was exiled there many years before. She meets the current head of the family, Yasuri Shichika, and his sister Nanami. Tagame explains how she is on a journey to find the 12 most powerful swords in Japan, which were made by Kiki Shigizaki, and needs his help. Shichika has no interest in helping her until Tagame commands him to fall in love with her, thus giving him a reason. Suddenly, they are attacked by a ninja from the Manoa Ninja Corps with one of the 12 swords, Zeto Kana. Shichika defeats the ninja, taking his sword, and they set out on their journey across Japan. When they arrive on the mainland, Shichika finds a strange world full of people, and has difficulty on distinguishing one person from another. After a month of traveling, Tagame and Shichika reach Inaba, in their search for the next sword, Santo Namakura. Inaba has become an ever-growing sandy desert, and they eventually reach the Kokoku castle, sinking into the sand. Outside, they stumble across the body of the reverse-talking ninja Shirasagi Manoa, who has just been killed by the Ranan Unari Ginkaku. They find Ginkaku living alone in the castle, in a small room with nothing except the sword. After negotiations fail, and they witness Ginkaku's challenging speed, Tagame and Shichika withdraw to devise a plan. After some deliberation, Shichika challenges Ginkaku again, and this time defeats him, earning them the second sword. In their third month of travel, the duo arrive at the Sanju Shrine in Izumo province, where the ex-bandit Nasta, the young woman who has taken the name of the former priest Saruga Mazai, protects third sword, Sento Churigi. Before Shichika can fight Meisai for the sword, Tagame must find the original sword of the 1,000 swords distributed among the shrine maidens. The shrine is a refuge for abused women, and each carries one of the blades as protection. While Tagame searches over the next few days, Shichika bonds with Meisai and learns of her struggle to protect the maidens, and Shichika reveals to her that he killed his father. Another ninja from the Manoa Corps, Kaisam of Sabaku, shows up seeking Sentachuki. He attacks using his spinning chained blades, Nippu Uzagatana, but meets a quick death at Meisai's hand. The next day, Tagame presents Meisai with what she concludes is the oldest sword, and Meisai agrees to fight Shichika. Meisai uses the Sentriar style, when you use weapons as they come to hand. But the fight ends with Meisai's death, and the third sword in Togame's hands. During the fourth month, Tagame and Shichika arrive at a village near Sao, in the eastern Yamaguchi prefecture. They seek Hakuhei Sabi, one of Japan's strongest swordsmen, who possesses the thin and frail sword, Hakutahari. Sabi sends a challenge to Shichika to meet on Ganria Island and duel for their swords. Meanwhile, Shichika's sister, Nanami, is attacked by the Manoa Ninja Insect Squad in an attempted kidnapping. Her foes soon discover that Nanami is actually the more powerful of the Yasuri siblings because of her ability to mimic any technique she sees, and she easily disposes of them. On Gunryar Island, Shichika defeats Hakuhei Sabi, even though he's apparently much stronger than the other opponents. Shichika and Tagame gain their fourth sword, although neither Hakuhei nor the fighter ever shown. In their fifth month, the duo encounters the pirate Kanara Azakura, who rules the small port of Satsuma. He possesses one of the 12 deviant blades, Zokato Yoroi, which is fashioned into a suit of armor. Because Tagame resembles his deceased younger sister, Azakura strikes a deal that if he wins a battle, he takes Tagame as his woman. Meanwhile, following the loss of 6 of the Maniwa ninja, Ho, commander of the Maniwa bird squad, offers Tagame a truce in the search for the swords, in exchange for being able to retain 2 of them, himself, and she agrees. Shichika and Azakura begin their contest, and after finding that he cannot penetrate the armor, Shichika defeats Azakura by slamming him into the ground. Following his defeat, Azakura spitefully changes the course of the ship carrying Tagame. and Shichika from their next destination of Owari province to the cold northern lands of Edo. Lost and freezing on Mount Odori in the Edo region, Tagame and Shichika are rescued by an incredibly strong 11-year-old girl named Konayuki Itezura, who is the last of the Itezura clan whom she says were all killed in an avalanche. Meanwhile, the remaining members of the Manoa Ninja group and prepare to collect divine plates together, while avoiding Tagame and Shichika. However, Kyoken takes off, after Tagame seeking revenge. At Mount Odori, Konayuki finds the sixth sword, the incredibly heavy Soto Kanazuchi. She follows her clan's instructions of only giving up the sword if defeated in battle. They fight and Shichika's arm is broken by an unexpected blow, the first fight he loses. While Shichika recovers, the vengeful Kyoken Manoa arrives and uses her power to take over the Kanayuki's body and memory. Kyoken suddenly realizes that Kanayuki's clan was annihilated. Kyoken then engages Shichika in a fight, but this time Shichika is able to predict the experienced ninja's moves. He defeats Kyoken's spirit, returning Konayuki's control of her own body. Haohaniwa arrives with Kawoso, and apologizes for Kyoken's behavior, and as a sign of good faith, kills Kawoso in front of their eyes. Later, Konayuki gives up the sword, and promises to take it to the mainland, on her way to live at the Sanzi Shrine. A while ago back on the island, Nanami became annoyed with her brother's slow progress, and decided to collect the swords herself. Along the way, she annihilated the Itezura, and then traveled to Shiraizen, where she wiped out the population, and took possession of one of the 12 swords, Akuta. Now in the present, Shichika now confronts the Nami at the Serial Gokenji Temple on Mount Sayabashiri, Tosa, watched by Tagame and Princess Hiti's servant Soda Enenzaemon. Nanami is now much stronger after gaining the strength of the Itezura people, thus proving a more powerful opponent than before. She reveals that she has plunged Akuta into her heart, magnifying her recuperative abilities. In preparation for a final duel, Tagame tells Shichika that he has a flaw in his combination technique, and encourages him to vary the sequence of his attacks. Shichika and Nanami meet in the temple for a fight to the death. But just as they start, all of the candles are extinguished in accordance with Tagame's plan, leaving them in darkness. Shichika beats Nanami and removes Akutobita, however Nanami slices off Tagame's long hair and continues to fight, forcing Shichika to kill her. On their way back to Owari, and the duo find the next sword, Biorigo is embedded in a mechanical doll, inhabiting an abandoned lake. Meanwhile, Omigame Manova encounters a Monjanan along the way. He reveals that the Maniwa wiped out his ancestors, the Ayori Ninja Corps, and summarily kills Omigame. Tagame gathers information, and attempts to capture the mechanical doll, by setting a trap, which fails, so she has Shichika trick it into revealing all of its techniques, by carrying out a series of attacks. Shichika eventually fights the mechanical doll, but he blocks and dodges all of its attacks, and until it runs out of energy, and Shichika swoops in to capture it. Later, Tagame sends the doll off to Princess Hite without its blades while they remain there to find Shikizaki's workshop. Tagame and Shichika now meet Zanki Kigachi, owner of the Shino Iso Dojo, and the ninth sword, Ota Nokagiri. Tagame and Kikuchi play shogi for Nokodiri, but Kikuchi loses, so she must fight Shichika with bamboo swords. Shichika loses badly, since his family's inheritance simply prevents him from wielding swords. So Kikuchi decides to teach him the art of kendo. Meanwhile, the three remaining Manoa find the sword Dokutor Meki in a cavern. Back at the dojo, Shichika proves clumsy and causes many compromising situations, which makes Tagame immensely jealous. Meanwhile, Princess Hite commands her servant, Soda Enenzaemon, to assassinate Haomaniwa. He finds the remaining Manoa Ninja Corps, Hawa, Penguin and Oshidori, but Hawa and Penguin escape, leaving Oshidori to face Amonzeman alone. After a hard-fought battle, Imonzemon shoots her dead with his pair of pistols. Back at the Shinoliso dojo, Tagame kisses Shichika, causing him to forget his kendo training. When Shichika finally faces Kiguchi, Tagame distracts her with shogi moves during the match. After Shichika beats Kiguchi by using a completely unpredictable move, she hands over the Ota no Kagiri. Tagame and Shichika arrive in Togame's deserted homeland of Shakejoin Oshu, where they meet a holy man, Rin Higaki. He appears to Shichika in the form of a young girl, whereas Tagame sees him as her father. Higaki tells Tagame he buried the sword, Sato Hikari 13 meters under the ground, and she begins digging furiously. Higaki causes Shichika and Tagame to face uncomfortable memories from their past. Shichika sees those who defeated him, and the death of his sister, while Tagame sees her father murdered by Mutsue Yasuri. The two remaining the Neo ninja, Ha, and Pulsar, with the sword to Koton Neku, while Princess Hitai sends a Monzanen to find out Tagame's real identity. Higaki transports Shichika into an illusionary world where they begin fighting. But Higaki easily avoids Shichika's attacks and poses questions to make Shichika consider his real reason for fighting. Shichika runs back to Tagame, who realizes Higaki's intentions, and she is rewarded with the memory of her father's dying words. She easily retrieves Sato Hikari, which has no blade. Later, Win reveals that the Kayatoryu technique of using no physical sword was actually Kiki Shikizuki's complete and final technique, and Shichika is its vehicle. But leaving with Sato Hikari, they head for Owari, but find Pain Manue in a critical condition, and he asks them to save Ho. In a flashback to the Sengoku period, hundreds of years earlier, Kiki Shikizaki offers to help Yasuri Kazune improve his swordsmanship. In the present, Tagame and Shichika now have 10 of the deviant blades, and Princess Hite learns Tagame's true identity as the daughter of Takahito Hida. A little while earlier, Imonzaemon found Hao and Penguin and engaged Hao in hand-to-hand combat. As Penguin looked on, he threw Ho 11's sword, Dokuto Meki, which gave Ho the power to wound Imonzaemon, but influenced by the sword he cut down Penguin. When Tagame and Shichika find the bleeding Penguin, they take him to an inn. They deduce that he had been cut by Dokuto Meki and decide to follow Ho towards Manua village in search of the sword. Tagame proposes that they create the first complete map of Japan, following their extensive travels, and confides that she's come to rely on Shichika as her trusted partner. Back at the inn, Imonzaemon appears with the last sword, the 2 pistols and Tonkju, and although the bullets he fires are initially countered by Penguin's special abilities, Imonzaemon fatally shoots Penguin at close range. In the abandoned village of Iga, Shichika and Togami find Ho holding Dokuto Meki. He has been possessed by Shikizaki's spirit, which reveals his plan to change history. Shichika attacks Shikizaki, but the fight ends quickly with Shichika as the winner. But finally, arriving above Owari at sunset, Togame and Shichika are confronted by Imonzaemon, who reveals that he knows Togame's true identity. Shocked, they both freeze as Imonzaemon pulls out Entoju and shoots Tagame. After fatally shooting Tagame, Imonzaemon explains that she has fulfilled her mission for the shogunate and walks away. Shichika holds Tagame as she bleeds to death, who tells Shichika that she exploited him for her own ends. She orders him to forget about her, which he refuses to do, and she confesses that she enjoyed being with him, and that he changed her. With her last words, she asks if it was okay if she fell for him too. At the shogun's castle, Princess Hite is revealed to be Kiki Shikizaki's descendant when she meets the Owari shogun, Masatsuna Yanari. She tells him of Shikizaki's prediction that the country would fall in 100 years. Imonzaemon intervenes to say that the Kayatori has entered the castle. The guards are unable to stop Shichika, so the shogun sends Imonzaemon and his 11 retainers armed with Shikizuki's deviant blades to deal with him. Shichika enters the building, breaking the blades and killing the swordsman as he moves up each floor, effectively using the fighting experience he developed while traveling with Tugain. He finally faces Imonzaemon and reveals that he came prepared to die. He manages to kill Imonzaemon even though he is badly injured himself. When Shichika arrives at the final room, Hiei tells the shogun that Shikizagi's original plan was the collapse of the Owari shogunate. Shichika spares her and kills the shogun who's sent to Game on the suicidal mission of collecting the swords. In an epilogue, Shichika travels with Hiei as they form a partnership of convenience on his journey to map the entirety of Japan.